everything happening today with the human enslavement agenda and the depopulation agenda and the agenda to engineer stupidity and retardation via the vaccines and the public indoctrination camps, all that stuff, all those agendas that I just listed, they are so heavily intertwined with the Genesis from the Old Testament Bible. It's why I do a lot of videos about religion and the gods and how it's all connected to the government and the current events we see happening, because it's very ancient and it traces all the way back to the bloodlines, the 13 Illuminati bloodline families, the bloodline banking families, the Anunnaki Nephilim bloodlines, the bloodlines of Enki, the bloodlines of Enlil, the bloodlines of Yeshua, the bloodlines of Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, etc. And in the ancient translations of the Genesis, it goes into a lot of detail about how Yahweh, who is also known as Enlil, wanted to enslave humanity and keep humanity stupid. That's why in Genesis, in the biblical creation myth, Yahweh does not want mankind partaking in the tree of knowledge. Well, you know what's so bad about gaining knowledge and wisdom? I mean, why would some deity or some quote-unquote God not want, or why would he not want humanity to have access to knowledge and wisdom? And the reason is because he wanted to enslave everyone. And it gets very specific into this in some of the books that were hidden from the King James Bible. I even uploaded one of them. It's called The Apocalypse of Adam. And Adam straight up says, like, Yahweh enslaved us. And you see the same theme repeating throughout history with the burning of the Library of Alexandria and the occulting of knowledge. The occulting of knowledge, I mean, one of the first examples we have of the occulting of knowledge, the hiding of knowledge, is the story of the creation myth in Genesis, where Yahweh, the quote-unquote Father God, forbids Adam and Eve from gaining knowledge. And we see that theme continuously repeat all throughout history. And then we also see the theme of depopulation and crowd control, basically. But they used to call it culling the population with a plague or a famine. That's what the gods did. That's how they kept the population under control back in the day. They would do a plague or a famine. I mean, and now they just call it a pandemic, or they just start a war. But I mean, even the wars have been continuous. Even reading the Old Testament Bible, who's the God that's always instigating wars between the different tribes? It's Yahweh. So this is like, it's just the same stuff that's been going on for thousands of years. If you study history, it's really important that everyone studies history, because then everything makes perfect sense, that there's nothing new under the sun, and we're still living under the same systems of enslavement that date all the way back to Yahweh and the biblical Genesis. We see the continued suppression of human consciousness, the suppression of knowledge. We see the suppression of population growth. And then we also see the continued suppression of technologies that would benefit mankind. And we see the repeated theme of how there were certain quote-unquote gods, and then all the gods, they're just angels and aliens and fallen angels and fairies and deities, whatever you want to call them. They're all just extraterrestrials. None of the gods in the Bible actually created the universe or anything like that. Neither did they create humanity out of nothing. They genetically engineered us to be slaves, yes, but created us out of nothing like the Christian mythology likes to talk about. No, that's all fake history. The suppression of technology. We see this repeating for over thousands and thousands of years. One example was Prometheus taking the technology of fire. He basically took it from Zeus, who is Yahweh. Zeus is Yahweh. So Prometheus takes the technology of fire and metallurgy and gives it to the humans to teach them, hey, here's how to use metallurgy so you can make armor, so you can make shields and swords, and you can defend yourself. And then Yahweh gets pissed off, punishes Prometheus. It's kind of the same thing we see happening today, where Humans, we now have the technology of guns, and we use the guns to defend ourselves and protect ourselves from the government. And what does the government want to do? Take away all of our guns so we can't defend ourselves. It's the same thing, because this whole system of government was created by Yahweh. The God Yahweh and his cronies, they created the systems of government that are used to enslave people. And that's why they don't want us to have guns. It's the same reason why Zeus didn't want the humans to have metallurgy and fire technology back in the days of Greek mythology. It's the same exact thing. It's the same guy. Yahweh is the same as Zeus. The Greeks called him Zeus. The Christians call him Yahweh. The Sumerians called him Enlil, but Enlil is Zeus and is Yahweh. And the Romans called him Jupiter. It's the same guy. Across the thousands of years, they just have different names because the language changed over the years. Over the millennia, the language changed. More recent example of the suppression of technologies that would benefit mankind, this was just about 100 years ago. Nikola Tesla was reverse engineering zero-point energy, free energy, wireless energy to just give the humankind just infinite, abundant amounts of electricity so that they would never have to pay a monthly electricity bill again. And what did JP Morgan, the central banking family, do? They squashed all his research, they swept it under the rug, and they kept it hidden from humankind. Okay, it's the same thing. And again, these central banking families, these are the 13 Illuminati bloodline families that trace all the way back to these ancient deities like Yahweh and the Nephilim giants and the fallen angel bloodlines. Again, the genealogy is very complex. It's not just as simple to say, oh, it was part of this one bloodline, Yahweh. There's a whole lot of different bloodlines and different tribes and different crossbreeds and different hybrids and genetic experiments. And then, you get into even more complexity when you have the fallen angels having sex with the daughters of men and creating the Nephilim giants, and that creates a whole nother lineage, a whole nother bloodline. But this has been going on for thousands of years, and this is why I teach ancient history and religion, and how it's so heavily interconnected with everything happening now with the political agendas and the human enslavement and the vaccines and the depopulation. It's all very, 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 very connected. And if people don't understand history, you're not really going to fully cognize what's going on today and how we ended up being in this predicament that we're in today.